All right, continuing with this image, and again, this is just to show you a potential process that you could use, where I'm going to close the materials, and what I'm going to do now is select the yellow on her skin, and let's see, we want to make sure our color margin's pretty high, and we want to make sure, I'm going to turn close gap off, keep this on follow adjacent pixel, and have area scaling at about 5. And I'm going to click here and here. And now what I'm going to do is add a layer above this color layer. And this is going to be some highlights. I'm going to use the spray, the soft. And I don't want my brush density very high. I'm only going to have it at 4. The hardness is going to be low. And then the size, I want about this. Because what I'm going to do with this is kind of go over the edge of her face so that it kind of creates a light shadow. And I'm going to select the yellow, but I'm going to make it, this is the original color. Actually, I'm going to move it to the foreground. This is the original color, and I'm going to lower to a darker of kind of the same hue, but just a darker value. Not that dark, maybe about there. And now I'm just going to zoom in and lightly kind of go around the edge of her face. Create a light shadow. Here too. Okay, so this is, again, a very basic, just a light touch. And you can obviously go over your colors with much more accuracy and kind of fidelity to create a much more intricate coloring job, but that'll do for this. It's pretty bad. It looks like she just needs a shave or something. Okay, that'll do. And now I'm going to add some text in here just so we can see how we can make a balloon. And I'm going to go to my text. It's actually, it could be the bubble or it could be on the letter A, like this. And that's what we need, the text tool. And about where I'm going to have my text, about right here. And you always kind of want to keep in mind where you're going to keep your text, but sometimes you just don't know, and you'll find out after what text you need. So you've got to kind of work with it. But over here, I have a good amount of space that doesn't really block her face, which I want to have that visible. I wouldn't want to block her eye or something. That'd be horrible. So right here, this isn't too, it's not too important. I can do with losing it. So I'm going to click here, and I can see this cursor is way too large. And put it down to about here or something. And I'll just have her say, the color is also pretty light. Let me change it to black. And this font is ugly. Let's find something else. Wanted more of a comic font. Okay, these are pretty. Let's try this. Oh, that'll do. Okay. So, I like ice cream. Okay, and I should have had this centered. Yeah, that's fine. And a lot of times you'll have comics in all caps, but again, that's just a convention. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using lowercase, especially if you're just publishing it yourself or whatever. You can pick any font you want, really. There's no rule with that. And then we can I'm going to grab a curved balloon here, and the colors are all wrong here too. So I'm going to make it's based on this, so I'm just going to set it to black and white, and then make it. So remember what I said, if you use fewer points, it'll be a smoother balloon. And I see that the ink layer is, actually this is all below the ink, so let's move it above. And I'm going to clean this up by pressing O, or you can just use your object selection tool. And I'm going to go to these control points in here and kind of resize it to get it a nice clean fit around the words, so I don't have to lose. You want to lose as little of your image as possible. So that'll do. Egg shaped. And then now I'm going to switch to my, press T and switch to my balloon pen. And again, I'm going to change these to black and white. And then I'm just going to kind of, usually you want to have it pointing towards her mouth if possible. Sometimes the character will be like facing away and you won't have that option, but usually towards their head or towards their mouth. And when it's this close, it makes obvious sense to just point it to the mouth and like that. And the problem is, though, that they created a separate layer. If that happens, because this is on create new layer, you can either change it beforehand or after, just highlight them both. I just held down Control and press them both, right click and combine selected layer, and that'll put them to the same layer. And then I kind of want to make this balloon a little thicker edge, so I'm going to press O and go into brush size and just keep raising it to about, I guess, 9. That looks about right to me. And then I clicked the other layers just to kind of get rid of that object selection bar, and that looks fine. So I think we can qualify that as done for this panel. And so you've seen the process. Basically, we just built it up slowly with pencils, then we laid down our panels, and then we put in inks, then colors, we added a little shade, then some lettering in the balloon, and we're done. So that's pretty much all the process is figuring out each step and then running it through and then doing it again and again. And you're more likely to do the whole page or the whole story with pencils and then come back and do the inks and then come back and do the colors. But this is essentially what you're doing is just breaking it down to steps. And this is one possible workflow for you to use. So once we're done with this, let's say I wanted to export this whole story, which is 2 pages. I would just go to File and export multiple pages, batch export. And I'm going to call this, I want a JPEG. I'm going to put it in a new file or a new folder inside my course materials and just call it Woman Story Test. It's a great story title, right? And then I'll click OK. And I'm going to change this to all to get both of the pages in the story. And then just click OK. And change this to 90. Now, I said that you could, this is kind of iPad dimensions, but realize that, dimensions are always going to be changing as our devices change. And right now, I think an iPad can handle about 264 ppi, which is, it may not be as much as this, but you never know when we'll get better resolutions on our tablets. So I just going to leave it like this and see what happens, and then prefer quality illustration, and okay. I can go to here, and under my woman story test, we have the 2 files, and let's see how big the file came out to. It's only 336 kilobytes, and that's obviously because we didn't put much on the page. We didn't do anything too complicated, and this one's only 81 kilobytes, and it's just a blank page, so it didn't take up that much, and I think it looks fine. And from here to make an actual Cbz file, again, we just highlight all of them, or I'm just going to hold down, I can just press Control A, and then I'm going to right click or use my pen button because I have the setting, and I'm going to go Send to, compress zip folder, and there it is. I'm just going to retitle it as Story Test and change the suffix to Cbz. And yes, I want to change it. And now it's a Cbz file, and I can click and open it. There's the first page, here's the second page, and very fast and easy to do, and that is one possible process. So this whole thing only came to 202 kilobytes, so it's tiny in this form. But again, you always want to keep quality in mind, and if you're using more gradients and other things, you may need to use a higher quality. It just depends, and you're going to have to play around with it to get the file size you like and so on. But this is a very simple process, but it works, and I suggest you try it until you find your own kind of feed in the program and learn to kind of make it your own.